For as long as anyone could remember, humans had been underestimated by every species that shared the galaxy. Other civilizations looked down on them, dismissing them as primitive, impulsive, and dangerous in the wrong ways. To the Galactic Alliance, which was made up of dozens of powerful species, humanity was little more than a curiosity, a young species that had barely scratched the surface of interstellar travel and diplomacy. They were invited into the Alliance more as a gesture of inclusion than out of respect. While some species had centuries of experience in interstellar warfare, trade, and politics, humans were seen as inexperienced, chaotic, and slightly amusing. The elders of the Galactic Council often whispered among themselves about humanity's recklessness. They said humans lacked the discipline, the proper hierarchy, and the cultural refinement to play an important role in galactic affairs. Their ships were smaller than the fleets of most other species, their weapons seemed outdated, and their fleets were scattered across distant star systems. From the outside, humanity appeared vulnerable, almost naive. But appearances, as the galaxy would soon learn, were deceptive. Humans carried within them a long history of survival, conflict, and ingenuity. Unlike many alien civilizations that had evolved over millennia in relatively stable environments, humans had endured countless trials on their home planet. They had survived plagues, famine, wars, and disasters that had wiped out countless civilizations on other worlds. These struggles had taught them resilience, creativity, and a stubborn determination to endure at all costs. Humans had fought each other on countless battlefields, from vast plains to dense cities, developing strategies and tactics that adapted to any situation. Every war had left them stronger. Every failure had forced them to innovate. They were a species tempered by fire, both literal and figurative, and they had carried that experience with them as they reached for the stars. In secret, humans had also made tremendous technological advancements that the galaxy was unaware of. While other species flaunted their technological achievements, humanity had quietly built fleets, weapons, and defenses that far surpassed what the Alliance believed Earth to possess. Their scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, often in secrecy, perfecting systems of war and defense that could respond to almost any threat. Humans had mastered artificial intelligence, advanced energy weapons, orbital defenses, and starship designs that were both versatile and extremely durable. These advancements were not just about raw power. Humans had learned to combine precision, adaptability, and efficiency in ways that most other species had never imagined. To them, war was not just a test of strength, but a test of creativity, planning, and the ability to read and predict the enemy's moves. Despite their preparation and hidden strength, humans did not seek attention. They did not flaunt their power or boast about their capabilities. On the surface, they appeared humble, cooperative, and even a little naive. Other species saw them as harmless, perhaps even amusing, and they continued to underestimate them. Humans understood the value of patience and observation. They had watched the galaxy, noting alliances, rivalries, and weaknesses among the powerful civilizations. They learned not just how to fight, but how to survive in a galaxy full of threats, both overt and hidden. They observed carefully, listened to every story, and took note of every mistake made by other species. These lessons would later become invaluable when the time came to reveal their true might. Humans had also developed a unique way of thinking about conflict and cooperation. Unlike some species that relied on rigid hierarchy and strict obedience, humans relied on creativity, adaptability, and collective decision-making. Their strategies were flexible, their tactics unpredictable. Where other civilizations would follow rigid battle plans, humans could improvise, respond to changing conditions, and find unconventional solutions. This unpredictability, combined with their resilience and ingenuity, made them particularly dangerous, though no one suspected it yet. To outsiders, humanity's flexibility might seem chaotic, but in reality, it was the result of centuries of learning, adapting, and surviving in a world that constantly demanded innovation. Another key aspect of humanity's underestimated power was their psychological resilience. Humans had a remarkable ability to endure stress, fear, and loss. They could experience extreme hardships and still find the will to fight, rebuild, and continue. This resilience was something other species struggled to comprehend. Many civilizations had built great empires only to crumble when faced with unexpected challenges. Humans, by contrast, thrived under pressure. Their history had taught them that survival often depended not on strength alone, but on determination, ingenuity, and the willingness to take risks that others would not. It was this combination of mental toughness and resourcefulness that made humanity uniquely formidable. At the same time, humans maintained a strong sense of unity when necessary. While they often appeared disorganized and fragmented to outsiders when faced with a true threat, humans could come together in ways that were breathtaking in both scale and effectiveness. This unity was not imposed through fear or control, but emerged naturally from a shared understanding of survival and mutual dependence. Humans could coordinate massive fleets, synchronize complex operations, and execute plans with precision, all while adapting to new threats on the fly. This ability to combine individual initiative with collective effort was something few species could match, and it was hidden beneath the guise of ordinary, everyday human life. Even as the galaxy laughed at them, humans had quietly established networks of intelligence and surveillance that gave them an unmatched understanding of their surroundings. They were aware of the movements of other species' fleets, the political tensions among powerful empires, and the vulnerabilities in seemingly impenetrable systems. Their spies, sensors, and data analysts worked in secrecy, building a picture of the galaxy that few others could even imagine. This knowledge, combined with their technological prowess and strategic flexibility, meant that when humanity finally chose to act, they would do so with overwhelming precision and devastating effect. Despite being underestimated, humans maintained a sense of humility and patience. They did not rush into conflicts or seek glory for the sake of reputation. They understood the importance of timing, preparation, and careful observation. While other species might act impulsively, relying on arrogance or brute force, humans waited for the right moment, the moment when all their knowledge, technology, and strategy would converge for maximum impact. They understood that true power was not measured by appearances or loud declarations, but by the ability to achieve goals efficiently and decisively. As the years passed, humans continued to integrate themselves into galactic society while hiding their true capabilities. They traded, explored, and participated in diplomatic affairs, all the while building their fleets, refining their technology, and preparing for the challenges they knew were inevitable. They learned the ways of other species, adopting certain techniques while avoiding the mistakes that had doomed countless civilizations before them. They became masters of patience and subterfuge, allowing others to underestimate them without ever revealing the vast reservoirs of power they possessed. By the time the first signs of a major galactic conflict appeared, humans were ready. They had watched, learned, and quietly prepared for this moment for decades, if not centuries. The galaxy, still blind to their true abilities, continued to scoff and dismiss them. Yet beneath the surface, humanity's engines were ready to roar, their fleets ready to mobilize, and their strategies ready to unfold. The species that everyone thought was fragile and inexperienced had, in fact, been hiding an unstoppable potential, one that would soon leave the galaxy in awe, fear, and silence. This period of underestimation, the years when humans were seen as harmless, naive, and almost laughable, was crucial to their eventual success. It allowed them to prepare in secret, develop unprecedented technologies, and cultivate the skills that would make them an unchallengeable force. No other species had realized that every mockery, every insult, every dismissal only strengthened humanity's resolve. They had learned the most important lesson of all, that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage a species can have. And so, as the galaxy continued on its path, blind to the quiet storm building on a small blue planet, humans patiently waited. They had endured, survived, and evolved to meet challenges no one else could. They had mastered patience, observation, technology, and strategy. And when the moment finally arrived, the moment when the galaxy would demand action, humans would no longer be underestimated. The true story of their strength, resilience, and ingenuity would finally be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same again. When the Zarth Dominion struck, the galaxy was thrown into chaos. It was a sudden, brutal attack that left entire worlds in flames and countless civilizations reeling. The Zarth were a species feared for their merciless efficiency and superior military technology. Their fleets moved with terrifying speed, their weapons cut through shields and armor alike, and their soldiers were trained to kill without hesitation or remorse. They had spent centuries conquering and dominating star systems, and few dared to challenge them. Yet for reasons that were both political and opportunistic, they had chosen this particular moment to expand aggressively, attacking neutral worlds in a show of power and ruthlessness. The galaxy, which had long enjoyed a fragile peace maintained by balance and diplomacy, found itself unprepared for such sudden violence. The initial attacks left the Galactic Council in shock. Messages from the attacked worlds were filled with panic, despair, and fear. Entire communications networks were wiped out almost instantly, leaving behind only scattered distress signals. Planets that had believed themselves secure suddenly found their defenses overwhelmed. The Alliance fleets, which had been spread thin across the galaxy to maintain patrols and trade routes, struggled to respond in time. Ships that had been considered strong against most threats were decimated by the Zarth Dominion's advanced weaponry. It quickly became clear that the traditional forces of the Alliance would not be sufficient to stop the invaders. Panic spread among the Council members, and desperate meetings were convened to discuss possible solutions. As the galaxy scrambled, they realized they had few options. Many of the Alliance's allies were either too weak, too scattered, or too hesitant to intervene. Some civilizations tried to negotiate with the Zarth, offering resources or territory in exchange for peace. But the Zarth Dominion was relentless. They were not interested in compromise. They wanted control, expansion, and dominance. Every attempt at diplomacy failed, and the death toll continued to rise. Worlds fell one by one, leaving populations terrified, displaced, and desperate for aid. Entire star systems that had never known conflict before now faced devastation that seemed unstoppable. Amid this turmoil, the Council reluctantly turned to humanity. For most species, humans had been a curiosity, an unpredictable and inexperienced civilization. Few believed they could make any meaningful difference against a force as powerful as the Zarth. When messages of plea and desperation were sent to Earth, the humans were approached cautiously, almost as a last resort. Many species whispered among themselves, mocking the idea that these primitive humans could actually help in a galactic-scale war. Yet despite the disbelief, humanity did not hesitate. Their response was measured, calm, and efficient, a reflection of their readiness for exactly this kind of crisis. Humans began by assembling their fleets with remarkable speed. Unlike the disorganized fleets that others had imagined, Earth's forces were united and highly coordinated. They deployed ships that had long been prepared in secret, vessels designed to adapt, strike, and survive in ways that no other species could match. Each ship was equipped with advanced weapons, adaptive shields, and autonomous systems capable of precise decision-making. The humans did not rush blindly into battle. They planned, calculated, and ensured that every move was deliberate. Every fleet that set out from Earth carried with it not just firepower but strategy, intelligence, and a level of coordination that astonished those who witnessed it. When the human armada first emerged in the Zarth Dominion sector, the reaction among other species was one of disbelief and fear. Observers reported that the human ships seemed larger, more imposing, and far more technologically advanced than anything they had previously seen from Earth. The formations were tight, precise, and intimidating, unlike the scattered, uneven fleets that humans had been assumed to possess. Every move was deliberate. Every ship knew its role and executed it perfectly. For the first time, other civilizations began to realize that their assumptions about humans had been entirely wrong. The species they had dismissed as weak and disorganized was, in fact, a force to be reckoned with. The humans' approach to battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. While most civilizations relied on overwhelming force or sheer numbers, humans combined strategy, precision, and adaptability. They studied the enemy carefully, learning the Zarth Dominion's tactics, weaknesses, and patterns. Their attacks were coordinated to exploit vulnerabilities, striking with precision rather than chaos. Swarms of drones moved in perfect synchrony, shields adapted instantaneously to enemy fire, and long-range weapons struck before the Zarth could react. Every strike was calculated, every maneuver intentional. The humans did not simply fight to destroy, they fought to neutralize the threat efficiently, minimizing their own losses while maximizing the impact on the enemy. The first engagement between the human fleet and the Zarth Dominion was swift and decisive. The Zarth, confident in their superiority, were taken by surprise. Human ships moved with speed and coordination, that no Zarth commander had anticipated. Entire squadrons were disabled or destroyed before they could mount an effective counterattack. The humans' technology and tactics rendered traditional Zarth defenses nearly useless. Shockwaves of energy from human weapon systems tore through the enemy fleet, while adaptive shields deflected attacks aimed at Earth's vessels. In a matter of hours, what had seemed like an unstoppable invasion force was thrown into chaos. Panic began to spread through the Zarth ranks, something they had rarely experienced. As the battle continued, it became clear that the humans were not just powerful, but also disciplined and intelligent in their approach. They avoided unnecessary destruction, focused on strategic targets, and coordinated strikes across multiple fronts. The Zarth, who had expected to easily crush humanity's supposedly small and inexperienced fleet, were stunned to see how well prepared and effective their opponent was. Reports from the battlefield described human tactics that were unconventional, but highly effective, combining elements of deception, surprise, and adaptability. Where other species might have faltered under pressure, humans thrived, turning the Zarth Dominion's confidence into confusion and fear. While the battle raged, humans also demonstrated an unexpected sense of morality and restraint. They did not aim to conquer or pillage. Their mission was to protect the innocent and stop the Zarth Dominion's aggression. They evacuated civilians from vulnerable worlds, provided aid to beleaguered populations, and ensured that their strikes were precise and purposeful. This combination of overwhelming power and moral clarity further astonished other species. Humans were not just fighters, they were defenders, a species capable of immense strength yet guided by a strong sense of justice and purpose. News of the humans' effectiveness spread quickly. Worlds that had once doubted them began to reevaluate their assumptions. Messages of awe and disbelief flooded the Galactic Council as observers reported on the humans' extraordinary capabilities. Empires that had dismissed Earth as a minor player began to reconsider their strategies and alliances. The Zarth Dominion, facing an opponent they had never anticipated, struggled to regroup. Their previous conquests, built on intimidation and technological superiority, were now in jeopardy. Humanity had shifted the balance of power in the galaxy in a matter of days, and the consequences would be far-reaching. By the end of the initial engagement, it was clear that humans were no longer the underestimated species that the galaxy had once mocked. They had shown not only their military might but also their intelligence, strategy, and commitment to protecting life. The Zarth Dominion, once feared as an unstoppable force, had been humiliated and forced to retreat. The galaxy, still in shock, began to realize that Earth was not just another member of the Alliance but a pivotal force capable of changing the course of galactic history. The events of this period marked a turning point for humanity and the galaxy as a whole. Humans had proven that appearances could be deceiving, that patience, preparation, and ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable adversaries. They had revealed quietly but unmistakably that they were a species capable of extraordinary power and discipline. What had been assumed to be a minor, inexperienced civilization was, in fact, a force that could challenge and defeat one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. And so, as the Zarth Dominion withdrew to recover from their devastating losses, the galaxy began to take notice. Other civilizations, once dismissive and mocking, now watched humans with a mixture of awe, respect, and fear. Humanity had answered the call when others doubted their ability, and in doing so, they had forever changed the way the galaxy viewed them. No one would ever underestimate Earth again. The stage was set for humanity to reveal even more of their true capabilities, but for now, the first demonstration of their power had sent shockwaves throughout the stars, proving that the species once considered weak and inexperienced was, in reality, a guardian and a warrior of unparalleled skill. When the human fleet finally emerged in the war zone, the galaxy was not prepared for what it was about to witness. The sheer scale of the armada was shocking, even to those who had secretly hoped humanity might contribute to the fight. The ships were massive, sleek, and radiated an aura of controlled power that seemed almost unnatural. Every vessel, from the smallest fighter to the largest dreadnought, was designed with precision and purpose. They moved in formations that were both beautiful and terrifying, executing maneuvers that seemed impossible. To other species who had seen fleets clash countless times, it was a moment of disbelief. They had thought humans were limited, their technology primitive, and their fleets too small to matter. Yet here they were, appearing from hyperspace with overwhelming presence and absolute discipline. The first engagement with the Zarth Dominion revealed the depth of human ingenuity. Unlike other species that relied on raw firepower, humans combined strategy, technology, and adaptability to an extraordinary degree. Their ships were equipped with advanced energy shields that could adapt to incoming attacks in real time. Alien weapons, which had once torn through the strongest defenses, bounced off human shields as if they had hit nothing at all. The humans' tactical systems, powered by sophisticated artificial intelligence, could analyze enemy movements and respond in milliseconds. Each decision, each maneuver, and each strike was executed with precision that no other species had ever seen. Even the most seasoned commanders of the galaxy were astonished. They watched in silence as entire enemy squadrons were neutralized before they could react. One of the most impressive aspects of human strategy was the use of autonomous drone swarms. These drones were small, fast, and capable of executing complex maneuvers independently. They could disable enemy ships, hack into their systems, or create diversions, all while coordinating perfectly with the human fleet. The Zarth Dominion had never faced anything like this. Their traditional strategies relied on predictable patterns of attack and defense, but humans did not play by the same rules. The drones moved like living extensions of the fleet, striking precisely where needed and retreating before the enemy could counterattack. This combination of adaptability, speed, and intelligence made human tactics unpredictable and devastatingly effective. As the battle unfolded, it became clear that humans were not just technologically advanced but also extraordinarily disciplined. Every ship knew its role and every crew acted in perfect harmony. Commands were executed instantly and decisions were made with remarkable speed. Unlike other species where hesitation or fear could lead to chaos, humans thrived under pressure. They had spent centuries learning to adapt to unexpected situations, and this adaptability made them incredibly difficult to defeat. The Zarth Dominion, accustomed to overwhelming opponents with superior numbers and firepower, found themselves unable to predict or counter human maneuvers. Their confidence began to waver, replaced by confusion and fear. The human fleet's offensive was devastating. Using a combination of long-range energy weapons, precise orbital strikes, and coordinated drone attacks, they systematically dismantled the Zarth forces. Entire squadrons were disabled in minutes, and key command vessels were targeted with surgical precision. Alien fleets that had once been considered invincible were reduced to wreckage almost instantly. It was not just the humans' weapons that were remarkable, but the way they used them. Each strike was calculated, each movement purposeful, and each action part of a larger strategy. The Zarth Dominion, powerful and ruthless as they were, had never faced an opponent who combined technology, strategy, and adaptability so seamlessly. Even as they demonstrated overwhelming power, humans maintained discipline and restraint. They did not aimlessly destroy worlds or populations. Their goal was clear: neutralize the threat, protect the innocent, and restore balance. While other civilizations might have seen this as a chance to expand or conquer, humans operated with a different philosophy. Their strikes were precise, minimizing collateral damage while maximizing their effectiveness. Planets and populations that had been threatened were saved, and evacuation efforts were conducted with extraordinary efficiency. This combination of power and morality was unheard of in the galaxy. Humans were proving not only that they were strong, but that they were also responsible, capable of wielding immense power without succumbing to chaos or cruelty. The impact of human actions rippled across the galaxy. Other species, many of whom had previously underestimated Earth, began to take notice. Reports of human tactics, technology, and precision spread quickly, leaving many civilizations in awe. Commanders who had scoffed at the idea of human involvement were forced to reconsider their assumptions. Humans, the species they had dismissed as minor and inexperienced, had just rewritten the rules of warfare in the galaxy. Entire sectors of the galaxy fell silent as news of the human fleet's victories spread. The stories were difficult to believe at first. Ships moving as if alive, drones disabling entire squadrons, and alien commanders fleeing in panic. Yet eyewitnesses confirmed every detail, and soon no one could deny what had happened. The psychological impact on the Zarth Dominion was profound. Their soldiers, trained for centuries to face fear and death, found themselves overwhelmed by a force they could not comprehend. Confidence turned to fear, and fear turned to chaos. The very tactics and technologies that had made them invincible against other civilizations were useless against humans. Their fleets, once organized and disciplined, began to scatter, unable to respond to the precision and adaptability of the human armada. In many cases, entire ships surrendered or retreated, unwilling to face destruction. The humans had not only won battles but had shattered the perception of the Zarth as unbeatable conquerors. Even within the Galactic Alliance, humans' actions caused astonishment. Members who had once doubted Earth's capabilities now looked upon humans with a mixture of respect, awe, and fear. They realized that humans were no longer the underestimated species they had once dismissed. Instead, Earth had revealed itself as a force capable of altering the balance of power in the galaxy. The Alliance's perception of humans shifted almost overnight. From a minor participant to a pivotal force, humanity had demonstrated that appearances could be deceptive, and that the quiet, unassuming species from a small blue planet could wield power beyond imagination. As the battle continued, humans' strategic brilliance became even more apparent. They did not merely respond to enemy movements, they anticipated them. By analyzing patterns, studying previous conflicts, and adapting in real time, humans were able to predict the Zarth Dominion's tactics and counter them before they were fully executed. This level of foresight, combined with their advanced technology, made the human fleet nearly unstoppable. Every move the Zarth made seemed to play into the humans' hands, leaving them one step behind at every turn. Observers from other civilizations watched in disbelief as humans turned the tide of battle, proving that true power was not just about numbers or firepower but intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. One of the most remarkable aspects of the human approach was their coordination between different types of forces. Fighters, cruisers, dreadnoughts, and drones all operated in perfect harmony, each supporting the other. Where one vessel or unit would have been vulnerable alone, the combined fleet operated as a single cohesive organism. Enemy attacks were absorbed and countered with astonishing efficiency, and human forces exploited weaknesses with speed and precision. The level of coordination and synchronization was unlike anything the galaxy had seen, leaving alien commanders struggling to understand how humans achieved such seamless integration across thousands of ships. Despite the overwhelming force they displayed, humans maintained a calm, deliberate approach. There was no reckless aggression, no unnecessary destruction, no impulsive action. Every movement, every strike, every maneuver was part of a larger plan designed to maximize effectiveness while minimizing risk. The human fleet's composure in the heat of battle further demonstrated their discipline and intelligence. Unlike other civilizations where panic or overconfidence could easily compromise a fleet, humans remained focused, adaptable, and composed. Their ability to maintain control under extreme pressure was as important as their technological superiority, and it became one of their greatest strengths. By the end of the engagement, it was clear that humanity had completely redefined what it meant to be a military power. The Zarth Dominion had suffered staggering losses, and their reputation as an unstoppable force had been shattered. The galaxy had witnessed for the first time the true extent of human capability. Technology that surpassed expectations, strategy that outmatched even the most experienced commanders, and discipline that allowed them to act with precision and efficiency in the most chaotic conditions. Humanity was no longer underestimated. They had revealed themselves as a species capable of extraordinary feats, a civilization that combined intellect, adaptability, morality, and power in ways that other species could barely comprehend. As the dust of battle settled, the galaxy began to realize the profound implications of what had just occurred. Humans had not only defeated one of the most feared empires, but had also changed the way every other civilization would view them. They had demonstrated that appearances were often deceptive, and that patience, preparation, and ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable enemies. The demonstration of human power was not just a battle won. It was a statement, a revelation that humanity was a force that could no longer be ignored, mocked, or underestimated. The success of the human fleet in this engagement marked a turning point in galactic history. Other species now understood that humans were not merely participants in the galactic community, but key players whose decisions and actions could shape the future of the entire galaxy. The Zarth Dominion, humbled and terrified, began to retreat, while other civilizations re-evaluated their strategies, alliances, and perceptions of humanity. For the first time, the galaxy recognized that a small blue planet, once dismissed as insignificant, was home to a civilization of extraordinary power, intelligence, and moral resolve, and so humanity stood revealed not with arrogance or bluster, but with quiet, undeniable strength. They had shown the galaxy that their combination of technology, strategy, discipline, and morality made them a force unlike any other. The story of their might would be told for generations, a reminder that the underestimated could rise to become the unstoppable, and that patience, preparation, and ingenuity were as deadly as any weapon. The galaxy had learned its first hard lesson about Earth. Humans were not just survivors. They were masters of war, defenders of the innocent, and a species whose full potential had only just begun to be understood. After humanity's overwhelming victory against the Zarth Dominion, a profound silence settled over the galaxy. It was a silence born not from peace alone, but from awe, fear, and disbelief. Civilizations that had once dismissed humans as weak, inexperienced, or insignificant now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about this small blue planet. Entire councils paused their debates, empires halted their expansion plans, and fleets suspended patrols, as word of humanity's display spread faster than any official communication network. The galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. A species that had been underestimated at every turn had revealed its true military might. And the result was not just victory, but an almost supernatural impression of power. The aftermath of the battle was remarkable in its scale. The Zarth Dominion, which had terrorized entire sectors, was left in ruin. Key ships and command centers were obliterated. Entire fleets had been neutralized, and their leaders were forced into hiding. No other species had ever inflicted such rapid and precise devastation. It was as if humans had anticipated every move the enemy could make, and their strategies and technology had executed flawlessly. From the outside, it looked like an unstoppable force had descended upon the Zarth, dismantling their empire with surgical precision. But for humans, this was not a display of ego or ambition. It was a calculated act of defense. Their goal was never conquest, but protection. And that principle guided every decision, from targeting fleets to evacuating civilians from vulnerable worlds. The silence of the galaxy was magnified by humanity's restraint. Other species had long assumed that humans would use this opportunity to expand their influence, claim territories, or assert dominance. But they did not. Once the Zarth threat had been neutralized, humans did not occupy enemy worlds or impose their authority. Instead, they withdrew their fleets, leaving behind liberated systems and grateful populations. Alien leaders were both relieved and bewildered. The humans had the power to conquer the galaxy, yet they chose not to. This restraint was perhaps as shocking as their military prowess, and it forced every species to reconsider the nature of humanity. They had not fought for glory or expansion. They had fought for a principle: the protection of life and the restoration of balance. Every corner of the galaxy took note of the humans' actions. Merchants, explorers, and diplomats who had once laughed at Earth now shared stories of the precision and discipline of the human fleet. Rumors spread of ships that moved like living creatures, of drones that could disable entire enemy squadrons, and of weapons that rendered previously unstoppable forces powerless. Observers described humans as both terrifying and admirable. Terrifying because of the sheer efficiency and effectiveness of their actions, and admirable because they wielded such power responsibly. The galaxy had never seen a species capable of combining strength, intelligence, adaptability, and morality to such a degree. Humanity had not only won the battle, they had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare and the perception of what a species could achieve. The Galactic Council convened emergency meetings to assess the new reality. Representatives from dozens of civilizations debated how to approach humans, how to engage with them diplomatically, and how to prepare for the possibility that their restraint could change. Questions abounded. How had humanity built such advanced fleets in secret? How had they developed such sophisticated strategies and technologies without drawing attention? How could a species so young in interstellar affairs be capable of overwhelming the galaxy's most feared empire with such ease? The council members realized that they had been blind to humanity's potential, and that underestimating this species had been a grave mistake. Even allies who had worked alongside humans in minor conflicts or trade agreements were forced to acknowledge that Earth's capabilities were far beyond what they had imagined. Meanwhile, the Zarth Dominion struggled to recover. Their leaders had underestimated humanity and now faced the consequences. Entire sectors were lost, fleets destroyed, and morale shattered. Survivors recounted stories of human precision and strategy with fear and awe, describing tactics and technologies they could barely understand. The Zarth, once feared as one of the most disciplined and ruthless empires, had learned that there were forces in the galaxy they could not predict, could not overpower, and could not intimidate. Humanity's victory had not only destroyed their military might but had shattered their confidence. They had never faced an opponent that could outthink them, outmaneuver them, and yet fight with restraint and purpose. The ripple effects of humanity's actions spread to every civilization in the galaxy. Empires that had been engaged in their own conflicts paused, reconsidering their priorities. Diplomatic negotiations were influenced by the presence of humans, who had shown that they were both powerful and principled. Traders adjusted their routes to avoid potential conflict zones, knowing that Earth's fleets could intervene if necessary. Even pirates and mercenaries who thrived in lawless sectors reconsidered their activities, wary of a species capable of swift, decisive, and morally guided intervention. Humanity had established itself as a stabilizing force, not through conquest, but through the demonstration of controlled, overwhelming power. Observers noted the unusual calm with which humans conducted themselves. Unlike other civilizations that often displayed their victories with pride or arrogance, humans acted with quiet efficiency. They communicated only what was necessary, shared information sparingly, and avoided unnecessary confrontation. This behavior was puzzling to many alien species. How could a species capable of such destruction act with such composure? How could they achieve so much without claiming credit or asserting dominance? Humans seemed to understand that power alone was not enough. How one wielded it and the principles behind it were equally important. Part of the galaxy's awe stemmed from humanity's ability to remain unseen while still asserting control. Even as humans withdrew their fleets, they left behind a message that was both subtle and powerful. We protect, we observe, and we act when necessary. The message was clear. Humans did not seek war, but they would not hesitate to intervene when innocent lives or galactic stability were at stake. This invisible presence, this quiet dominance, created a new dynamic in the galaxy. Civilizations began to act with greater caution, knowing that Earth's forces could appear at any time. Humanity had become a silent guardian, a presence that demanded respect without ever needing to declare itself openly. The silence of the galaxy also reflected a deeper, psychological shift. Species that had once mocked humans, dismissed their technology, and underestimated their capabilities now approached Earth with caution and curiosity. Respect replaced ridicule, and fear replaced disdain. Stories of the human fleet's efficiency and precision became legend, shared among fleets, councils, and academies. Even young officers and strategists studied human tactics, trying to understand the methods behind their unprecedented victories. In many ways, humanity had become the standard against which other civilizations measured both power and morality. As time passed, the quiet influence of humans became even more apparent. Their presence, though not overt, shaped the policies, strategies, and alliances of countless civilizations. Trade routes stabilized under the implicit protection of Earth's fleets, and conflicts that might have escalated into full-scale wars were moderated by the knowledge that humans could intervene if necessary. The galaxy, once chaotic and unpredictable, experienced an era of relative stability, not because of treaties or alliances, but because of the silent power and restraint of humanity. The actions of humans during this period also revealed something important about their character as a species. They were not conquerors, nor were they motivated by ego or ambition. Their primary concern was survival, protection, and the balance of life in the galaxy. This moral compass, combined with unparalleled military strength, made them uniquely formidable. No other species had demonstrated that power could be wielded responsibly on such a massive scale, and this combination of morality and capability became a defining feature of humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. The silence that followed humanity's reveal was profound. It was not just the absence of conflict, but the absence of doubt, underestimation, and arrogance. Every species that had previously dismissed humans was forced to reconsider their assumptions. The galaxy, once chaotic and full of untested judgments, was now attentive, observant, and wary. Humans had sent a message not through words or declarations, but through action, through the decisive and restrained application of their power. The implications were clear. The underestimated had risen, and the galaxy would never again view Earth as insignificant. In the end, the silence of the galaxy was both a recognition and a warning. Recognition of humanity's extraordinary capabilities, their strategic brilliance, and their moral restraint. Warning that these capabilities were not to be tested recklessly, that humans would act decisively when necessary, and that the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. Across the stars, civilizations paused to reflect on what had happened. They realized that Earth was no longer a participant in galactic affairs. They were a force that could shape, protect, and, if required, dominate to preserve order. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would not soon be forgotten. Humans were not to be underestimated, mocked, or challenged without consequence, and so, as the silence stretched across the stars, humanity remained unseen but deeply felt. They had intervened, they had protected, and they had reshaped perceptions, all without seeking recognition or reward. Their restraint, efficiency, and morality had left an indelible mark on the galaxy. Other species, now fully aware of humanity's capabilities, began to navigate a new reality, one where Earth was no longer a distant curiosity, but a silent guardian whose true power could not be ignored. The galaxy had gone silent not just because of fear, but because it was in awe of the quiet, controlled, and unmatched might of humanity. After the silence that followed humanity's display of military might, the galaxy slowly began to adjust to a new reality. Humans, having demonstrated overwhelming strength and strategic brilliance, had left a lasting impression on every civilization. The Zarth Dominion was in disarray. Other empires were cautious, and even neutral worlds now regarded Earth with a mixture of awe, respect, and wariness. Humanity had established itself not through conquest or aggression, but through a demonstration of precision, efficiency, and moral restraint. This approach reshaped the political and military landscape of the galaxy in ways that no one had anticipated. Humans did not occupy the territories they had saved. They did not demand tribute or allegiance from the civilizations that had been threatened. Instead, they allowed those worlds to recover independently, offering aid only where it was necessary to stabilize populations or restore infrastructure. Their fleets, capable of instant devastation, remained largely unseen, patrolling quietly at the edges of known space or monitoring potential threats from a distance. This approach made humans an enigma. Their presence was always felt, yet they intervened only when essential. Other civilizations, which had often relied on open displays of power to assert dominance, were forced to rethink their strategies. They had expected the humans to be like them, aggressive, territorial, and driven by ego. But humanity's restraint introduced a completely new model of influence and authority. The galaxy gradually learned that humans were not only capable of unmatched destruction, but also of unparalleled protection. They became a silent, stabilizing force, a presence whose intervention could end wars, halt invasions, or prevent disasters without the need for formal declarations or alliances. Trade routes reopened safely under the implicit protection of human fleets, and conflicts that might have escalated into full-scale wars were moderated by the knowledge that Earth could intervene decisively. Civilizations that had once engaged in reckless expansion began to act with caution, understanding that human oversight, even from a distance, could nullify their plans. Humanity had turned their power into a tool for peace, and this principle became central to their reputation across the stars. The psychological impact of humanity's actions extended far beyond the immediate military consequences. Species that had previously dismissed Earth now studied humanity with curiosity and respect. Scholars and strategists analyzed human tactics. Philosophers debated the moral principles that guided their actions, and diplomats reconsidered the assumptions that had led them to underestimate this small, unassuming civilization. Every aspect of humanity's success, their technology, adaptability, resilience, and moral judgment, became a subject of fascination. The galaxy began to see humans not as a single species among many, but as a civilization with the potential to influence events on an unprecedented scale. One of the most profound consequences of humanity's intervention was the change in interspecies relations. Civilizations that had been longtime rivals or engaged in prolonged conflicts began to reconsider their hostilities. They realized that further escalation could draw human attention, and no species wanted to risk confronting a force that had already demonstrated its ability to dismantle entire empires with efficiency and precision. Humanity had not imposed peace through fear alone. They had created an environment where the mere possibility of their involvement encouraged diplomacy, cooperation, and cautious behavior. The galaxy was learning, in subtle but undeniable ways, that restraint combined with overwhelming capability could be more powerful than open aggression. Humans also became guardians of knowledge and technology in discreet ways. While they did not openly share their most advanced systems, they provided aid and guidance to those recovering from the Zarth attacks, ensuring that critical infrastructure and defensive capabilities could be restored. They helped stabilize populations, rebuild planetary defenses, and train local forces in strategies that emphasized efficiency and protection. By doing this, humans not only prevented further chaos, but also demonstrated a philosophy of empowerment. They showed that strength was most effective when used to enable others rather than dominate them. Civilizations that received such aid learned quickly that humans were capable of immense benevolence, tempered by absolute competence. The moral framework behind humanity's actions was as important as their military power. Humans had demonstrated that true strength was not about domination, conquest, or fear. It was about responsibility, foresight, and protection. Other species struggled to understand this. Many had relied on power to intimidate or coerce, believing that force alone was the measure of a civilization's greatness. Humans, by contrast, had shown that power was most meaningful when guided by principles, when it was used not to subjugate, but to stabilize, protect, and preserve. This moral dimension of their strategy became a defining characteristic of humanity's presence in the galaxy, earning them not only respect but also a unique form of influence that no empire could claim. Through sheer force, humanity's restraint and moral guidance also inspired hope among civilizations that had been oppressed or marginalized. Planets and star systems that had suffered under tyrannical regimes or repeated invasions began to see a new possibility for security and stability. Stories of human intervention spread across the galaxy, describing fleets that could appear to protect the innocent, rescue populations under threat, and restore balance without demanding allegiance or tribute. For many, this was the first time in their history that they had witnessed such a combination of power and principle. Humanity became a symbol of protection and resilience, a reminder that strength could be wielded wisely and justly. The galaxy also learned to expect the unexpected from humans. No other species had mastered such a balance of discretion and impact. Humans did not announce their interventions, nor did they seek recognition for their achievements. Instead, they acted where necessary with precision, and withdrew when their objectives were complete. This unpredictability added a layer of caution and respect to every interaction with Earth. Governments, fleets, and diplomats understood that human involvement could appear suddenly and decisively, and that any action taken in ignorance of humanity's potential could have catastrophic consequences. This silent influence fundamentally altered the strategic thinking of every species in the galaxy. Over time, humanity's presence became a stabilizing factor, not just militarily but culturally and politically. Their success in demonstrating restraint combined with power encouraged other species to rethink their own approaches to conflict, diplomacy, and defense. Trade flourished more securely, long-standing hostilities were tempered by caution, and even rogue factions acted more carefully, knowing that human oversight could intervene if necessary. In effect, humanity became the invisible hand guiding the galaxy toward balance, not through domination, but through the quiet demonstration of what was possible when power was paired with responsibility. Humans also continued to innovate, refine, and expand their capabilities in secret, while other civilizations marveled at their known achievements. The full extent of humanity's technological and strategic developments remained largely hidden. Fleets were upgraded, new defense systems tested, and autonomous intelligence continued to evolve. This ongoing preparation ensured that humans would remain a dominant and stabilizing force, ready to respond if the galaxy faced another threat, comparable to the Zarth Dominion. Their strength, combined with foresight and adaptability, meant that they could act decisively at any moment, maintaining the balance without ever seeking recognition or glory. Despite their power, humans never sought to impose themselves on others. They understood that true influence was earned through respect and example, not through fear or coercion. Civilizations that had once considered themselves dominant learned to interact with humanity cautiously, diplomatically, and with genuine respect. Humans had created a new paradigm. That power, when exercised wisely, could inspire cooperation, caution, and peace without the need for overt control. Their actions left an enduring impression on galactic society, a legacy that would shape politics, military strategy, and cultural understanding for generations. In the long term, humanity's intervention had created a galaxy that was more stable, more cautious, and more aware of the responsibilities that came with power. Their presence acted as a deterrent to reckless aggression, a safeguard for vulnerable populations, and a reminder that even the smallest species could achieve monumental influence when guided by intelligence, preparation, and morality. The galaxy had learned that underestimated civilizations could rise to become guardians and arbiters of balance, and that the true measure of a species' strength lay not only in its capabilities but in how it chose to wield them. And so, humanity stood as the quiet, watchful protector of the galaxy. Their fleets remained largely unseen, but their influence was felt everywhere. Civilizations adapted their strategies, tempered their ambitions, and conducted themselves with a new awareness of Earth's power. Humanity had revealed its might not for conquest, not for fame, but for the protection and stability of the galaxy itself. The legacy of their actions endured, creating a galaxy where caution, respect, and morality were intertwined with strength and intelligence. Every star system remembered the day humans had revealed their true power, and every species adjusted its understanding of what it meant to survive, thrive, and act responsibly in a universe that had suddenly become much more aware of Earth's extraordinary capabilities. The story of humanity's rise and its decisive, yet restrained intervention became legend. It was a tale of preparation, patience, strategy, and moral clarity that reshaped the galaxy forever. Humans had shown that strength and morality could coexist, that power could be a tool for protection rather than domination, and that the underestimated could become the guardians of the cosmos. The galaxy had witnessed the full scope of humanity's capability, and the memory of that moment would influence civilizations for countless generations to come. In every corner of space, from the most advanced empires to the most remote colonies, the quiet presence of humanity was acknowledged, respected, and feared in equal measure. The galaxy had learned an unforgettable lesson. Humans were no longer a species to be underestimated, mocked, or ignored. They were a force that could protect, inspire, and, if necessary, dominate, all while remaining guided by principles far beyond the understanding of most civilizations.